in 2027, which is about a year from now. Actually, this talk is about what will happen in the lead up to that election. Exit Oburu, incoming Oparanya. Listen to Jeanette Mohammed.
UDA walete rais na ODM walete deputy president. Sisi tutapeleka kwa soko Wycliffe Ambetsa Oparanya.
And he was not the only one. Khwisero MP, Aseka Miradi, also.
Kama ODM tumekubali ya kwamba Rais William Ruto ndio presidential candidate wetu 2027. Lakini sisi watu wa ODM nasi tumesema ya kwamba deputy president atoke chama cha ODM. Na ule ambaye anatosha kuwa deputy president kwa chama cha ODM ni Wycliffe Ambetsa Oparanya.
And the ODM, is she now formally Secretary General, or that's still yet to be ratified, right? Yes. Catherine Omanyo also supporting the same call.
Kila boma iko na yule anaelekeza direction. Tuko na mtoto wetu ambaye anaitwa CS Wycliffe Ambetsa.
Okay, so what's happening here? A few months ago, it was the party leader, Oburu Oginga, who was being fronted for this. Now there's a very spirited one here for Oparanya, and I believe the coastal region is also fronting for one of their own to be the running mate. And you see various statements about if we're going in this together, and into 2027, into the election. This is a non-negotiable that ODM must produce the running mate, even as UDA has the presidential candidate who is the incumbent. The one thing that always surprises me about these conversations from the ODM side is I don't know who ODM is negotiating with, because they make these statements in public a lot. I don't know the art of making a deal or the art of negotiation, or maybe it works differently for political deals than it does in the boardroom. But I mean, there's a lot of public negotiation and public statements and public ultimatums that are issued by the ODM side. I'm not sure I've ever heard a UDA party leader speak about this issue. Who are they negotiating with? Who are they talking to? Who are they addressing this to? And by the way, isn't there that committee that they were supposed they formed to talk to each other? But or is this how political negotiation is made? I'm often accused of being idealistic, and maybe I don't understand how politics works. Maybe this is how it works. You say it in public and you shout about it and you shift goalposts a little bit. First was Oburu, now it's yeah.
A conversation.
I think I think what could be happening from my assessment is that the ODM party feels that as a result of what happened in Olkalau, they have a fighting chance for a deputy president, because DP Kithure Kindiki had promised that he would deliver that Olkalau seat back to UDA, and that did not happen. And that DCP took control of it, and decisively so, then they have a reason to question the value that DP Kindiki now brings to the table. But going back to ODM and how it's managing its affairs currently, clearly tells you that it's unhinged. You don't know who is supposed to speak on behalf of this political party, because it's not just it's also Cabinet Secretary Wycliffe Oparanya that has been mentioned. At one point, they also are very strong, insisting that the Homa Bay Governor, Gladys Wanga, deserves that position, and whatever formation they're going into, Wanga deserves that role. If you go down to the coast, the coastal region guys also saying, hey, as ODM, Ali Hassan Joho is our best fit. So if you're going to consider deputy president, then give us that slot and give it. So you actually don't know who speaks on behalf of ODM. And that is why previously we have said it on this position that ODM really needs to go back to the Raila template of negotiations, where you hold your cards and unleash them when you strategically need them. you don't go to the marketplace shouting and claiming this is what we want, while the other camp is silent, comfortable, and just watching. It tells you that they know your place and they know where they'll put you. So I think ODM really, in as much as the battle for Kalau gave them some breathing space in this broad-based coalition to make a few demands, they're going about it the wrong way. If at all they have that team that had promised, and I think the party leader speaking in Siaya somewhere had indicated that they already have their team in place and those negotiations to begin, they should let it happen at that negotiation table as opposed to saying it at every empowerment, because what happens next, you'll hear the ODM Turukana wing also coming up with their candidate. So the problem will be at the party level. There'll be a problem in agreeing who is this person that we are fronting. Yeah. Because I can tell you for free, what is his name? Junet and the team that spoke in Kakamega. If they come to the four Nyanza counties, they'll speak different things. Right. If they go to the Kisii side, Simbarati will come top. If they go to Mombasa, so who is this person that you have prepared? Yeah. Because a deputy president's position is also just a position that you pick every other person. You have to have somebody that is able to provide value. So for me, ODM is going about it the wrong way, and it just shows the confusion that is apparent in that political party. Yeah, and you know, the person who occupies that seat right now actually spoke in his own defense. I'd like us to listen to Deputy President, Professor Kithure Kindiki, who actually took note of what was said in Kakamega over the weekend.
Hii serikali, muache mchezo. Hii ni serikali yetu, hatutoki. Tunang'ang'ana hapa. Najua tumeongezeka, kina Oparanya wamekuja, wamekaribishwa, lakini hatutoki. Hatuwezi waondokea. Tutang'ang'ana tukiwa hapa ndani kwa sababu hii ni serikali yetu.
So is it in the animal kingdom or in the human race where, you know, people are fighting for, is it the groom's attention? I mean, and he's just sitting there pretty, like, looking at all these. Allow me to make this analogy. I know I can make them and they're offensive. But you know, it's like when a dude is sitting there watching these chicks fighting over him. No, mimi ndio niko hapa. Mimi ndio nime, and you know, he said, mimi ndio nimejenga hii nyumba, nikaiweka baba, I furnished it. And then these other ones are saying, we have several suitors for you, right? Chagua, unataka nani? Unataka Gladys Wangu, unataka Oparanya. Iko wengi hapa tuko na lineup. And then this other one saying, I'm here to stay. And meanwhile, you know, the person in question is just sitting there, you know, watching. Yeah, okay. Yeah. You know, whoever, I don't know. It's like some silly gladiatorial battle. And whoever comes off unscathed, or at least with as few bruises as possible, is the one that gets the prize. I don't know. That's just how sometimes it sounds in my head. Maybe it helps. It helps to look at things this way, or else we'll go nuts in this country.
You know, it's. I have to say it's fascinating to watch, and to also see the deputy president. I have not seen him like that.
Quite like this, right?
To say hii ni serikali yetu.
Yes. Hatutoki.
I don't know who yetu is supposed to be. But I think eventually it shows you who politicians are, and you will know them by how they speak. And lately you must have seen that the deputy president has also been deploying his local dialect to make some important points. So I think it's getting to that very heated moment in this, should I say, race to 2027. But at the same time, what I find peculiar with ODM, remember they had a special delegates convention, 27th of March 2026, just about 4 months ago. And almost to the day, as they mark the 4th anniversary since that meeting, you find them saying the things they're saying. I think part of the things that they said during that SDC is that they authorized the party leadership to get into negotiations with the UDA party with their hopes of getting a pre-election coalition agreement ahead of the 2027 general election. But you don't see a lot of progress that has been made since then. I also recall that there's a time there were certain issues within the broad-based arrangement, and there was a meeting, I think there was a parliamentary group meeting that was called at State House, also attended by senior leaders within the ODM. And it was agreed that there would be a team put together to check the challenges that may be witnessed between the two parties. I don't think the meeting was at State House, maybe KICC if I'm not mistaken, or something like that. So you find that there appears to be a lot of challenges that these two political parties are having to deal with in the rallies, but perhaps not discussing them and dispensing off with them where it should happen. That is the former structure. But we also understand that there's this understanding that it might still be early to formalize coalitions, because if you look at even the United Opposition side or the opposition side, every other person, every other political party and every other movement has also been busy mobilizing people to think like them as we face the next election. But I think it's going to be a very interesting situation for the broad-based government and the arm of politics to make that decision on how does the ticket look like. Again, like I said, for Professor Kindiki to speak the way he did, I don't know what Kenyans are supposed to be thinking, because for a very long time we've seen the vote of confidence that the president has given the deputy president in foreign, saying that this is a brilliant deputy. When you want to succeed, you hire people who are brighter than you. So you don't know whether it's a bit of massaging or he actually believes in what he has said. Does it mean that approaching 2027 things may change, or do they remain the same? But more importantly, Yvonne, you must reckon that what you've seen the past few elections since the promulgation of the new constitution, whether it's 2013, 2017, 2022, and even where we're headed now, there has been the understanding that the top two at the presidential ticket, that is the presidential candidate and the running mate, have to be very strong in terms of convincing, whether it's their political bases or, just to face it, the ethnic numbers that we have in the country. And that's how the presidency has been won since 2013. If you look at the arrangement between Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto, Raila Odinga and Kalonzo Musyoka, they came together because of the numbers that they brought. If you to look at the repeat contests in 2017, where you had the Jubilee ticket remaining intact, the NASA ticket remaining intact with Raila Odinga and Kalonzo Musyoka, it was also some consideration. And also the other political parties or the other regions that would support that ticket also you'll be seen to be informed by the weight of numbers that come from different regions. In 2022, the same thing. With the ticket that you saw of President Ruto and Rigathi Gachagua, again, it was heavy on numbers between Rift Valley and Mount Kenya. If you look at the ticket of Raila Odinga and Martha Karua, it was the understanding and hope that at least because of the running mate in the name of Martha Karua, you'd actually mobilize the numbers to support Raila Odinga the late. So really, what should this mean coming to 2027? There has been questions asked about the region that Professor Kindiki comes from. He comes from the Mount Kenya region. There has been a spirited contest, spirited campaign by one of the members of the cabinet, that is Geoffrey Ruku, who is saying it is time to split the mountain between east and west. Well, on this other side, you find Gachagua saying that the mountain will remain united. So if the mountain is actually united, meaning they vote like how you saw Ol Kalou doing, what does this mean for Professor Kindiki? If it is split, like Geoffrey Ruku wants, is it sufficient for Professor Kindiki, or is President Ruto going to stick with Professor Kindiki regardless of the situation and perhaps make peace with other regions? But then I think there's a very difficult decision for President Ruto to make in this election. If he chooses a different running mate from Professor Kindiki, what would that mean? There are Kenyans that will be reading it, whether it's from Mount Kenya or the rest of the country. You won the election with Rigathi Gachagua. He was impeached. And by now we know clearly that the president actually had a role, if you're to go by some of the confessions that have come from the political class, meaning it was not purely a parliamentary decision. So one was impeached, then you got another one who is not retained for the next ticket. So you can betray one, but when you betray two, what does that mean? Even if you are to replace Professor Kindiki with someone else for the ticket next year, is the person picked in that ticket supposed to feel confident? Because
how long
the last person that was picked for a ticket ended up impeached after 2 years. Right, so how about you? If it is, say, Wycliffe Oparanya, and you go to the election and you win, how confident would you be that you can actually serve a full term? Exactly. Because it has been seen in this country that you can actually switch the support bases, dump this one and pick another one.
Yes. I want us to talk very quickly first, because you've talked about it, this impeachment and how it was done, political, parliamentary, who was behind it. And there's been some interesting revelations that have come up. I'd like us to first listen to Jeanette Mohammed, who was speaking in Kakamega over the weekend. Some glaring admissions to bribery.
Tulikuwa tunafukuza Gachagua kazi. Kuna kitu ilitembea hapo huko bunge. Wacha niseme ukweli. Kuna kitu ilitembea nini? Na accounting officer alikuwa mtu anaitwa Aaron Cheriot, ndio alikuwa accounting officer.
All right, and then I'd like us to listen to MP for Langata constituency, Jalango. He was speaking on Alex Makideo TV.
Mlikula kula ile wakati wa Munyoro kumbandua mamlakani.
Watu walikula.
Ilikuwa mnakula kama ngapi ngapi?
Watu walikula. Wewe wacha nikwambie, watu walifurahia.
Vizuri sana.
Watu walifurahia.
Kiasi ya kujenga nyumba. Watu
walifurahia. Ilikuwa ina depend unamuongelesha nani wapi saa ngapi. Kuna watu walikula huku na wakakula huku. Kuna watu walisema siende kupiga.
Yes.
Naenda kupiga.
Yes.
Akakula huku akakula, ili ujanja na ukora pia.
And I just want you to take note of the tone in which these admissions are being made. There's no remorse, there's no shame in what this is being done. It's all very... Yeah. Senator Dan Manzo, as well, spoke about this issue.
Were senators paid to impeach Rigathi Gachagua?
No. Yes, they were.
You're a senator, were you paid?
Well, I was approached, and I was given a condition.
Okay.
I was told, you take this money, you must vote yes. If you take it and run away, you will not get to your house. If you take it and vote no, you will not get to your house.
Okay.
And therefore, I said I was going to vote no.
How much was this?
It was 10 million Kenyan shillings.
Who was giving you this money?
There were agents.
Who offered you this money?
Agents.
Which agent?
People from the government.
Who?
Agents.
Name someone.
No. If they were threatening me with death that time, why would I name them? I can't.
Okay. So am I the only one who's shocked that we're having very open, brazen conversations like this? By the way, in a country that is supposed to be Vision 20 what? 60. Look at our elected officials who are, happily saying they were offered 10 million, kula huku, kakula huku, and an accounting officer is being named. We've talked about this several times across this table. People in other jurisdictions, all these other countries we've mentioned, Malaysia, Bangladesh, China, the whiff of corruption in countries like China, I don't want to say it, but we all know what happens to persons who are corrupt, and where they end up sentenced to death. Mm-hmm. Here, it's a laughable conversation. Yeah, it's so cool. Would you believe it? Imagine that. Even if you were to put the politics of, Rigathi Gachagua to one side, Murima, whatnot, all the things that he said about shareholding, which is one thing. So they were impeaching him for going against the Constitution, and they were doing it by themselves, going against the Constitution. And these people today are still in office. The EACC has not made any attempt to call them in question. Neither has the DCI. Nobody. But we're just okay. So we're just moving on with our lives. We're happy. Yeah, people said they were bribed up to 10 million shillings.
Yep.
Jay, I mean, what country is this? What country is? What country do we live in? What's happening here?
If you recall, last year, a few months before ODM leader Raila Odinga died, there was a parliamentary group meeting. Jay, if you remember, it was in KCB grounds. Yeah,
KCB College.
And a lot of things went on, and the president said that Senate is Sokohuru. And he was raising questions of how a governor would afford, how much money was it?
It was about 90 million or something.
Millions of shillings. Yeah. How would they afford to go off the hook, let themselves off the hook, because he was saying that a governor who was facing impeachment bribed the senators. And I remember the senator of Isiolo, Fatma Dulo, saying before the House and saying that we have become a soko huru. And I think that's the origin of that name that the president was quoting. So a lot of claims have come in that there's a lot of bribery for different parliamentary processes, especially when committees are investigating certain questions of accountability and transparency, especially touching on resource utilization. So it's already almost an accepted fact that something has been happening in our parliament, and worse off, the 13th parliament. Now, for these leaders to come out and say these things, and actually if you listen to the likes of Senator Manzo, it's not the first time they're saying that money exchange hands. Yeah. And I think I've also had the same panelists that on that show going against each other and saying you need to present evidence, because they know there's no evidence that was captured. These things are done in some...
who leaves evidence of
exactly.
a private
but now, it is unfortunate that we just talk about it and move on. Yeah. And I heard the other day the NCSC chairperson, Bishop Omai, saying that even on matters hate speech, there has to be a complaint. Yeah. So in a situation where leaders are saying that walikula vizuri, the accounting officer, so and so, so EACC is still waiting for a formal complaint so that they can act? Or is it that they do not want to get into that and say that that's just political banter? But then again, the bigger question would be, so Kenyans, you've seen what's happening. What are you supposed to think? It's just a few weeks that we saw the judgment of the High Court of Kenya saying that impeachment is final. But we admit, we agree that Rigathi Gachagua was not procedurally removed. At least he was not given fair hearing.
They even offered him money
in the Senate, and he was offered a compensation of 50 million shillings, meaning there's a problem with that process. Now, when such kind of information comes in, that money exchanged hands to influence.
What are we to make of the courts and the decision?
What should you think about? So, essentially, should Rigathi Gachagua run in 2027 on account of impeachment? Impeachment is final, the court says. But if the circumstances were this, and the leaders are coming to say these things, openly. And by the way, I have no problem with them admitting. My only challenge, because it's also important to be truthful, my only challenge is that they actually allowed it to happen in the first place.
And that they can say it like this, knowing there will be no consequences.
If they were convinced that these impeachment grounds are sufficient, they should actually vote to impeach. If they require some financial incentive or facilitation.
Then is it something they believe?
And you can imagine, where there is financial incentive, is there also intimidation? Could there be that there are people
Dan Manzo said so.
that did not essentially believe in the process, and they belonged to the governing party, but they had to make a certain decision because failure to making that decision, a lot of things would go wrong, including them being denied development in their constituencies. And we have heard stories of parliamentarians that say as much, especially based on how they vote on different pieces of legislation or motions before the House. So I think this is just giving an opportunity for Kenyans to now think, who did you send to positions of leadership? Now, as far as what should they do after that? I think it's a question that they have to think about.
Now, I just, as you come in, Jay, just to think about these amounts, and of course the court is guided by its own principles in terms of compensation, but the court awarded former DP Rigathi Gachagua 50 million. But Dan Manzo says he was offered 10 million, and perhaps that's a figure that was being given to all of them. So how much money, if we're to go by that admission and assuming it is true, so how much money might have been used to bribe them to vote, and then he gets a compensation of 50 million?
Hundreds of millions. But you've
I mean, you know, just think about that.
Return on investment.
Exactly.
That our parliament has always been at all-time low is an open secret. You remember in August of 2028, when there was a debate on a controversial report on the sugar sector.
You mean 2018?
2018, I mean, yes.
2 years ahead.
I think I'm already thinking post-27.
Yeah.
And we were getting reports that MPs were being bribed. I don't know whether to call it as low or as little as 10,000 shillings in the corridors of the bathrooms.
So you just say it properly.
Kwacho.
Exactly.
I mean,
thank you. The
that
corridors of the bathrooms.
You are supposed to vote on a report that has identified that Kenyans are consuming contraband sugar that could potentially be harmful. And for only 10,000 shillings as a member of parliament, elected perhaps by 120,000 people in a constituency, 10,000 shillings, you reject that report. Then somebody approaches you the 10 million shillings to send Rigathi Gachagua home. You will take it. So that our parliament has exhibited such kind of alley rat tendencies is not lost on us. And just like some says, it's a reflection on us as a people who are going to vote to ask ourselves, who is this person that you want to put into office to legislate, to oversight, and represent us? Because what we have currently is not doing that.
Yeah.
And also
impeach, because chances are we could. Yeah.
We could, yeah.
I mean, it's terrible.
Yeah, interesting times we live in. And this would be the same parliament that would lead a national exercise on reflection on where we are as a country.
So that we don't...
yeah, and this was the Senate, by the way.
Yeah,
the Senate was supposed to be the upper house, the one that was of wisdom.
Yeah, house of wisdom. So you ask yourself, because we were told, the president said that the opposition is an existential threat.
Who is the existential threat now?
Okay. That's a good question.
Yeah. So, because Jamila is not here tonight, I'm taking executive powers. I'm giving myself powers. One, to end the show, and along with that, hey, call it impunity.
You're starting.
Yes.
We need a conversation.
We are operating in an environment of fear.
We should get a conversation about that.
It's an environment of fear. Live with it. Live with it.
It's an existential threat.
Yes, to the gang.
All right, let's do this. I think, let me go first.